Promoting breastfeeding. I'm all in favor of that, but you have to remember that 75% of American women already breastfeed. We're talking about a problem that is specifically in the black community. And so for you to change federal law and IRS regulations and start forcing businesses to make accommodations for nursing women at their own expense to promote it in the black community is the problem that I have with it. And I agree with Michelle. This is the nanny state on steroids.
That is what she made reference, Masha Sandy did, to a separate thing. Under the Health Care Reform Act, more and more businesses are required to give nursing mothers private space where they can express milk, which is a separate thing. But the First Lady, the President, and the IRS, now all three have made efforts to try to facilitate breastfeeding, encourage breastfeeding. And, you know, you're seeing some politicians come out and say, butt out.
Megyn, you know better than I do the significant benefits that breastfeeding has. It's very good for the baby. It's good for the mother. What this tax credit is doing, and also the federal work rules that you alluded to a moment ago, is it's helping to even out the playing field. It's allowing some women that do not have access to breastfeeding to be able to make the choice to breastfeed their children. For example, 30% of working women stop breastfeeding, and they say the reason is their boss doesn't give them the time to breastfeed, they don't have a break, and they don't have a place to breastfeed. So if we know the significant benefits to breastfeeding, then why not try to make it available to all women? I mean, this is a very personal choice. And if you look at low-income mothers, breastfeeding nursing supplies can cost between $500 to $1,000 a year. A low-income mother is not going to be able to afford.
But do you know how much formula costs? A lot. More than that.
That might be the case, Megyn, but I think that it's fundamentally unfair to not give the opportunity to lower-income women to have the option of.
How do they not have the opportunity? What I'm saying is you're going to spend $1,000 a year. If you just feed your baby formula, you're going to spend a lot of dough, at least several hundred. The difference. And so why don't they get a write-off? Why don't you get a write-off for the formula? Why is it just a breast pump?
I think the difference.
Megyn, the other point is that how many
I'll go back to you, Sandy. Let me get Masha to answer that, and then I'll go back to you.
I think the difference is formula. I don't know how much it costs. Maybe it's $5 every week. Maybe you can
more
go
than
and pay
that.
for
It's expensive.
Well, however much it is, Megyn, if you want to go ahead and buy a breast pump, a good breast pump is going to cost you $300. And maybe welfare will cover formula, but it's not going to cover the breast pump. So why, as an economically disadvantaged woman, I mean, you make the decision to go back into the workplace. If you don't have the $300 to shell out for the breast pump, not to mention the cost of the milk bags, the tubes, and so on, you're not going to be able to, you know, go to work or to breastfeed your children.
Okay, let me get Sandy to respond.
Megyn, this is just nonsense. Low-income women don't itemize deductions, first of all, and so the IRS provision for this doesn't help very many people. And I think if Michelle Obama really wants to help women in the black community, I'm all in favor of that, to encourage them to nurse their babies. But to change federal law, to force employers, as part of this initiative, to provide a place for mothers to nurse and time off to nurse or to pump is not right. Talk about fairness. You're going to make business owners at this time in our economy accommodate nursing mothers at their expense? I'd say equal pay for equal work does not apply here.
Well, Sandy, what's a nursing mother supposed to do? You know, like when you are nursing, you're trying to give your baby breast milk, and you don't have a place you can go pump in private. What are you supposed to do?
Exactly, Megyn. Are you supposed to go into the bathroom stall to breastfeed your child? I mean, that's an excellent point. And I just want to point out that economically, this makes sense as well. There was a study published by Harvard Medical School last spring that basically stated that if 90% of American women were able to breastfeed their children, we would see savings of $13 billion a year annually on lost wages
and
health care.
It's best for the baby, and it's good for mothers. But let me just ask you this, Sandy, and then I got to go. Is there a point to be made that actually the First Lady should not be opining on this, because there's a lot of pressure on women to breastfeed, and believe it or not, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And when they try and they abandon it, there's a stigma that gets attached to them. And is there an argument that having the First Lady weigh in on this only adds to that?
Perhaps, Megyn, but I'm not so concerned about that. That's something that women have to decide. I am concerned, however, with her trying to dictate and impose her ideas on women of all stripes, which is, I believe, what she's doing in this case. I think breastfeeding is wonderful. And to the point of whether someone should have a room, yes, I think if a boss doesn't accommodate, if you want to pump, you need to find a different boss. But to dictate to employers that they have to provide a space and give you the time off to do that, I think is unreasonable.
They had to do it because the bosses weren't doing it. I mean, look at you here at Fox News. You work in a newsroom. You know, you're sitting in a little cubby. So if you're a nursing mom, what are you going to do? Whip out your breast pump at your little cubby with like dozens of people around you watching? No, believe me, they don't want to see that.
Are you trying to tell us, Megyn,
exactly,
Megyn, is Fox bad to you? We need to talk to Roger Rios.
And
he should provide something
for
you.
Right?
You're
Okay,
a special
so
case.
They gave me an office, so I have some
Yeah,
privacy.
I thought
but
maybe.
I feel for my fellow women in the newsroom. All right, ladies.
Yeah, but you can't impose that on employers right now. That's
I can,
really unreasonable.
and I apparently have. At least
you have an office.
I haven't, but
Good
the
for you,
Affordable Care
Megyn.
Act has. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We're taking your thoughts on that as well. And by the way, not right now, not today, but soon, I'm going to have a little special comment of my own on what you should say and should not say to a pregnant woman. Now, I did this right before I had my son, and my second pregnancy has brought a whole new host of new experiences for me on the receiving end of comments. And let me just start with this. I'll just give you a little placeholder until I get to that special comment. You look great. That's all you have to say. No more comments about another woman's body, especially if you don't know me. Don't comment on my body. All right, I digress.